Hello, I'm Piero Giorgio. I am here in Washington, D.C. with William Blum, who is the author of many books that have changed the way I saw the world and I saw American foreign policy, like books like Rogue State, like Killing Hope, and like the latest one, America's Deadliest Export, Democracy, as a lot of people in the Middle East know. And I wanted to meet you because I wanted to tell you how grateful I am, how you helped me to change the way I was looking at things, and how it led me to write my own book, Survive the Economic Collapse.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
I wanted to thank you, and I wanted to take this opportunity so that my readers or the people who follow my blog can have some knowledge of who you are and what's your views on American foreign policy, and how you see hope in the next coming years. So for once it's going to be a positive, perhaps there was going to be a hopeful message. How did you start to have these views on American foreign policies?
My views changed because of Vietnam. I was working at the State Department. I planned on becoming a foreign service officer and joining the great anti-communist crusade. I wanted to do my share. I was a good, loyal American anti-communist working at the State Department. And then Vietnam came along, and that's changed my head completely. It was amazing. I became very active in the anti-war movement, and then I was forced to quit the State Department because they knew that I was active in these things, and they called me in for a meeting and told me I would be happier in the private sector. And so I left then. And then I was one of the people who founded the Washington Free Press, which was the part of the underground press of the 1960s. The 1960s, this is the underground newspapers. That's how I began writing, so it was all because of Vietnam.
Yeah, that was already a terrible foreign policy.
That changed so many people. Even today, I meet people, and half of them who say that it was Vietnam that changed my mind. And I think if the people who run this country, if they had known how many people were going to become left-wingers because of their policy, they might not have invaded Vietnam.
How about the more recent foreign policy of the United States, the constant wars in the Middle East?
Yeah, well, that's creating a whole new generation of left-wingers. In my generation it was Vietnam, and now for younger people it's Iraq and Afghanistan and some other places.
So you said jokingly that, and of course in your books you document that, the books are very factual, which are very, very nice, that you say that all the foreign policy of America is not for freedom and democracy.
No, it's to expand the empire. It's for economic reasons. It's for ideological reasons. The people who own and run America, they are true believers. In the American way of life. They would like to expand the American way of life to all over the world, and they really are true believers. So that's the ideology, but the financial and the political are also factors. Those are the motivations. Nothing to do with freedom. We have supported so many dictatorships. How can we talk about freedom? I've written in the second half of the 20th century, it would be difficult to name a single brutal dictatorship that was not supported by the United States. Not only supported, but put into power and kept in power against the wishes of their own people. So that's who we've supported. So we can't speak about democracy and freedom.
And do you think, when you see the policy of the United States, especially in the Middle East, over Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Egypt, and even the foreign policy with Israel, do you think the willingness to control the natural resources, mainly oil, is also one of the important
Yes,
elements?
of course. Oil is both a natural resource and a means for power. If you can control the oil of the Middle East, you have all kinds of power over other countries. So it's not just the resource per se; it's the power of oil, and that is a major factor in our policy in the Middle East, of course.
And you mentioned earlier now, before we started, that you actually have hope for the new generation to try to understand better and work towards changing towards peace. What makes you so optimistic?
There are many kinds of activities going on amongst young people. In Washington and elsewhere in the U.S., they have demonstrations on all the time. On just 2 days ago, on the weekend, there was a major demonstration in Washington because of the NSA, the National Security Agency, because of all this big demonstration here was called "Stop Watching Us." That's what they called it. "Stop Watching Us," and that's very encouraging. There were over 1,000 people there, and I get letters every day from people, young people, who tell me about how they're changing their thinking about U.S. foreign policy. It's not a scientific study that I've made, but it's based on my own experiences. I'm optimistic about people changing.
Interesting, and as you mentioned, this watching, this NSA, having drones, controlling people, do you think this is a psychotic approach from the government to try what is impossible, because you have 300 million Americans?
Yeah.
How can you manage that?
Yeah, and how can they? Yeah, and how can they watch the entire Middle East? I mean, the people, leaders who are desperate will do crazy things, and our leaders are becoming desperate. They argue amongst themselves a lot, and that's a good sign too. In the long run, they're going to lose. They cannot control the world in the long run. But in the short run, they can kill almost everybody. So I can't be too happy about the long run when the short run is so dangerous.
Yeah, I see. And we've seen, especially in the United States, with the current economic crisis and the financial incredible debt, the foreign policy that is in a way very unsuccessful, as it costs so much. It costs lives, it costs money, it helps create the debt, whether it's in Afghanistan, Iraq, having hot bases in hundreds of countries around the globe. Isn't that something that could bring, and obviously that's what I explained in my book, but could that accelerate the collapse of the United States as an empire?
You know, they used to say about the Soviet Union that their involvement in Afghanistan was the reason that they collapsed. But you know, that's not true. What happened in 1990 in the Soviet Union could have happened in 1980 or 1970 or 1960. It was the same system. You know, if the Russian Empire was suffering because of all their involvement abroad, it was the people on the bottom who suffered the most. The people on top didn't suffer. It's the same here. If we keep spending all this money and it hurts us financially, it's not going to be our leaders who are hurt. The people in Congress and the people in the White House, they are not going to suffer from this financial problem. It's the average American, and the people on top don't care about the average American. Even, of course, they say so, but they don't care. So it can go on for a long, long time. This financial problem and the suffering can go on for decades more I don't expect the empire to collapse anytime soon.
One counter argument would be that no one expected the Soviet Union to collapse either.
But that collapsed because of Gorbachev. Gorbachev is the one who's behind that. He wanted to make the Soviet Union into a Western European social democracy. That was his main ambition, and that he didn't want to end the Soviet Union. He wanted it to be more like Western Europe, but he made a mistake. He didn't realize that once he opened the door, the floods would come in. There was no stopping it. He miscalculated. When he began with a few reforms, it was too late to go back. That's what happened. It wasn't because of the Soviet system that didn't collapse. The Soviet system was very healthy, and for its own use, and this system here is not going to collapse very easily, either.
Okay, I see. Now, for our French viewers, I've mostly French viewers for the moment. You mentioned earlier that there is a socialist government in France, and you mentioned yourself that you are yourself a socialist. Do you think those kind of governments are socialist, really?
France, and who else calls themselves socialist?
The Labour Party in England.
Yeah, no.
Tony Blair.
No, to me, I can summarize my socialism in a few words: putting people before profit. If you just look at everything a society does, and you say who benefits and who's hurt. If your philosophy is to put the people first before profit, that makes you a socialist, and that's the guideline to run the system. That's my view of socialism, and I don't think the French government puts the people before profit.
Well, that's people before profit. I certainly agree to that, and that's the first time I hear a definition that would make me a socialist. So that's a good first. I wanted to take advantage of being here to give you my book, which is starting in the United States. I hope it will be helping to put a little stone on the
Thank you very much.
On the progress. And once again, I thank you very, very much for having us in your house here in Washington D.C. And once again, William Blum. If you don't know him, it's really ideas and facts. It's mostly facts in his books in your books that really help people to understand the history and the sad effects in the world of American United States foreign policy. So thank you very much, and continue the